The seeds of our home asterisk Scotland was not my first home, not even my second. Like all good love stories, mine was not without its hardships and obstacles to overcome. Moving to Scotland with a small infant in tow and knowing no one at all was always going to be challenging. Despite the beauty and buzz of the city, after many months of living here, it still felt unfamiliar. I was, and perhaps still I am, a stranger in a strange land. But slowly it won me over. Gently, over time, it revealed its secrets and offered me a little space in which to plant my flag and start to grow roots of my own. My Scotland is not a single place. It is a quilt of experiences and memories that have woven themselves into the fabric of my being and added yet another layer to my already eclectic sense of identity. It is days spent in ancient castles and cathedrals, playing with my son, exploring the past and inventing stories and tales of what may have happened there. It is fun and playtime, running through dark passages and spiral staircases and playing knights atop castle walls. My Scotland is the excitement of sitting in the car and beginning a new adventure to an unknown place, of embarking on a journey which will ignite the flames of our imaginations, gifting us a feast for our eyes and souls. It is moments playing on sandy beaches, squealing as we talk ourselves into entering the cool waters of the sea, and shrieking as we make race tracks. In the sand, 29 My Scotland is laughter as we run across woodlands and embrace the child within. It is pausing to explore the tiny details we might usually overlook and wonder aloud together of what creatures may live there and make the earth their home. It is collecting shells and stones to treasure as keepsakes of our travels and feature as protagonists in the retellings of our adventures. It is seeds planted with little hope of any chance of growth, only to find, a few months later, our windowsills, flourishing with colorful flowers and plants that threaten to reach the ceiling. My Scotland is filled with color. Beautiful sunsets of purple and pink on short winter days. Red, orange, and yellow skies as the sun sets perfectly over a watery horizon. It is bright yellow wellies splashing in muddy puddles and red sledges against white snow. It's filled with yellow gorse on green hillsides and purple heather on autumn days. It is gray stones on a trodden brown path and pink blossom blowing across the window in the spring breeze. My Scotland is aquamarine and deep blue sea against a bone-white sandy beach. It is landscapes whose grandeur continues to take my breath away, mountains that rise from the ground like giants watchers thousands of years old. Sights that I had only ever seen in pictures, only to discover that the pictures failed to convey their true magnitude and impact. My Scotland is wild camping and cuddling together as a family in a cramped tent as the wind and rain batter us. It is Glencoe and forgotten raincoats and campfires. It is ice creams and barbecues besides locks. It is filled with family walks and attempts to find waterfalls as a small child asks to be carried. It is the renaming of places to Fantasy Hill and Tidyland, 30, but more than all that, it is potential and invitation. Here's the place where we had to begin anew, where we were forced to carve out our own small space and form new habits and traditions, where we challenged ourselves to confront difficult times and discovered hidden strength and perseverance. Here's where we took chances, the place where we leapt into the unknown and blindly trusted that we would find a solid landing ground. And we did. The place where dreams were followed and realized, where patience was tested and hypotheticals turned into realities. Here's where we planted new seeds of hope and watched them ever so slowly begin to grow. My Scotland took time to take shape and form. It did not come easily and was sometimes filled with friction and downright opposition. Sometimes it felt impossible, but it was patient and let us discover its gifts slowly in our own time. It welcomed us and with each new experience, rewarded us with an appetite for more. It filled us with a thirst to explore further, to be braver and more ambitious, to make memories that we can treasure long into the future. My Scotland is not something tangible, but an essence. It is wonderment and hope and inspiration. It is daring to dream. It is the space to pause and appreciate the possibilities before me and finding the courage to seize them when they come. It is trusting in my inner resources and resolve. It is what has turned a foreign land into a home. Scotland was not my first home, but it is the one which has captured my heart. Pakistani life in 1960s Glasgow. It was a cold, wet December in 1965. It was only 4 p.m., but it was dark outside as we stepped off the plane. We'd come all the way from Lahore in Pakistan to land in Govan, Glasgow. My parents left a very comfortable middle-class life in Pakistan when my father was offered the chance of doing a PhD in chemistry at Strathclyde University. Our first house was a one-bedroom, fourth-floor tenement flat. My mom, who was pregnant with her third child, had to not only negotiate the stairs, but also the comments from our neighbors. Being a positive person, my mom was able to bat away the questions, how come your hair is so dark? Do you use kohl? With her smile, charm, and food. My mom, who is an excellent cook, would fill the tenement close with the aroma of delicious curries. She was an expert in Pakistani cuisine. I wish those genes had been passed on to me. I got the funny genes. My sister got the cooking genes, and my brother the software development genes. Luckily, we all got the smiling genes. My father would spend his days researching at Strathclyde University and then work in a factory at night so that he could help look after his family. He was a very hardworking and clever man. In Glasgow, people used the words that we don't hear nowadays. In Pakistan, he had taught at one of the best institutions and commanded respect from his students. My father struggled to understand why people would treat him 33 differently just because of the color of his skin. Racism was a word my parents had never heard or experienced. This caused him a lot of stress. Like most migrants, my family looked for and found other Pakistani families to share their joys, woes of the weather, food, and discrimination. I remember one Christmas, when we went to the carnival at Kelvin Hall, my father tried a baked potato with butter on it for the first time. We looked at him with amazement, fear, and some apprehension. He was eating a potato with its skin on, and there were no spices, no color, and no flavor. He took one for the team. We were then treated to candy floss, one between 3 children. Money was tight, and teeth were important. Pakistani people have a very sweet tooth, something we have in common with Glaswegians. Have you ever tried a gulab jamun? It's like a deep-fried Mars bar. Gulab jamun is normally served at Pakistani weddings with ice cream, the mixing of cultures, of food, and of hope. Not being able to afford a car, but keen to travel and explore our new home, we took bus tours around Scotland. I remember them quite clearly. We children brought down the average age of the tour bus. We went to Stirling Castle, Callander, Inverness, and everywhere in between. My favorite trip was the mystery one where you never knew where we would end up. For every trip, my mom would make lamb kebabs, unda kakina, a spicy egg omelet, and we would have this with bread and urn brew. The mixing of foods and culture were very prominent. The older occupants of the bus loved having us children around. Well, most did. On the odd occasion, we did hear comments about the smell in the bus as my mom would open the tasty food and hand it round the 34 family. It made me very conscious of smells, and to this day, I am paranoid about it. That is why I always buy the most expensive perfume. My father loved the Highlands of Scotland. I think it reminded him of his homeland where he had grown up after partition, from India, and where he would often visit the Himalayas. Those mountains were slightly higher than our own Ben Nevis. One sunny day, many moons later, when we had a car, we climbed to the base camp in our chapels, sandals. I can still picture the scene. My father walking across the rope bridge, using his hands to hold the wire rope, then balancing his feet on the single wire that took him across the fast-flowing river below. He reminded me of an acrobat taking his first steps on a high wire. I had never seen a person of color who was an acrobat. He turned and smiled at us as he crossed. I was so relieved to see him make it back. My favorite memories of us as a family are of playing cricket in Maxwell Park in Glasgow. My father, the slow spin bowler, me batting, and my siblings, the fielders. My poor mum was the umpire, holding on to all our coats with no hands free to sign for a 4 or 6. Again, a picnic was always part of the joy. Eating Pakistani food, samosas, chicken kebabs with chapatis, and, as ever, washing it down with ginger. We'd expanded from Earn Brew to Tizer and Coke. Because my mom was a great cook, people would never refuse an invitation to eat at our house. My father would invite his colleagues to come to our now 12-bedroom tenement flat in Pollokshields for dinner. He was so proud of my mom and how well she had coped with the change in landscape, weather, and expectations. Theirs was a true love marriage, one cut short by the 35 death of my father at the age of 45. He had a massive heart attack caused by stress, discrimination, and racism. Strathclyde University named a chemical reaction after my dad when he died, acknowledging the fact that he was a brilliant academic researcher. It is called the Pause-and-Can reaction. My mom lived a legacy for 33 years after my father died and never looked at another man. True love can never be underestimated. Spellbound, the house, had been on the market for months with no sign of a buyer. So I consulted a witch. She's a friend of a friend, and it seemed worth a go. Please give me a spell to sell my house, I asked her. The divorce will be through in a week, and I'm desperate to move back to Scotland. She nodded kindly and told me a spell. So once I got home, I chose a light, airy space, the windowsill in my kitchen, covered it with a golden cloth, and placed a leafy plant and a candlestick at each end. Then I hunted around for the final ingredient, something to put in the center of the magical space to represent my dream of the future. Unfortunately, most of my stuff was already packed into boxes for the removal people, and the best I could do was a jigsaw with a picture on the front of a collie frolicking on a mountainside. I propped the box up against the window and prepared to light the candles, empty my mind of troubles, gaze into the special space, and think positive thoughts. I stood there, trying hard, but it was no good. I couldn't bring myself to get all mystic over a jigsaw box. I didn't even know if it was a Scottish collie. Time went by. I soon had to leave the country for a couple of weeks' work in the Far East, and house sale or no, I didn't want to return to Cornwall and all the misery surrounding divorce. So I finished packing and phoned my Cornish friends, asking each of them to take me on a favorite walk to say goodbye. It turned out to be a 37 lovely way to bid farewell to them in the county. And on the very last walk, as we scrambled over the crest of a hill, I saw a host of purple thistles dancing in the breeze. Back in my kitchen, I strewed thistles around the jigsaw, lit the candles, took a deep breath, emptied my mind of troubles, and thought of Edinburgh on a spring morning, with the castle, Ramsay Garden, the Assembly Hall, and all those other glorious buildings banking up into the sky. At which point, ding-dong, a young couple stood on the doorstep asking if they could see round the house. Within a fortnight, we'd completed the sale. Yes, there really is magic. Soon, the packing cases were all in storage. The car was crammed with everything I'd need to survive until I found a new home, and all the remaining furniture was sold. As I left for the airport, I noticed the thistles still lying on the windowsill. So I took them out to the car and tossed them on the dashboard. The Far East was exciting, especially since I returned to a hotel room every evening to find email. bulletins from my daughter. She'd been reared on stories of Scotland and was utterly besotted with the place, so she decided to leave her job and move north with me. She'd already gone up to Edinburgh to stay with a friend and was hunting for a two-bedroomed flat in the city centre. On the day she found one, I was in Hong Kong. It's on the third floor, but it doesn't feel that high up, and it costs a bit more than you said, but it's absolutely beautiful. Mum, there are 3 bedrooms, so we can make one into an office. It's really perfect and we must buy it. It's a fixed price and bids go in first thing tomorrow. Please, Mum, let me bid. 38. Oh, well, I thought, why not let your 20-year-old child spend your every last penny on something you've never seen? I typed yes and went to bed. Of course, she managed to be first bidder, and after sorting a money transfer, I left Hong Kong as the owner of a Scottish tenement flat. Over the next couple of weeks, my daughter, bless her, sorted all the legal stuff and bureaucracy, arranged phone, internet, and TV, got the packing cases brought up from Cornwall, and furnished our new home. When I returned from the far East, I had a few days' work to finish in England, but as soon as possible, I hurtled up the A1. Oh, the joy of roaring past the Felchio Alba sign in the right direction. The Firth of Forth and Base Rock, Torness Power Station, Arthur's Seat, hoving into view. In the city centre, I turned off Hanover Street onto cobbles and drew up outside the small blue door I'd seen in the photos. My daughter was already installed up there. All I had to do was press the buzzer. With a muttered thank you to the witch, I opened the car door, then noticed the dried-up thistles lying on the dashboard. Oh God, I said. This is Thistle Street. Yes, there is magic. Every word is true. And as I write this story, I'm celebrating my 15th year in this lovely place. Asterisk. On a sense of splice. Asterisk. When we are born, our sense of self is tied to the bodies that surround us, the folks we consider parents or parental figures. We feel a visceral connection to them. They feel so strongly a part of us that we cannot imagine our place in the world without them. As we grow, we form other attachments, little strings of connection between us and people, music, moments. Little strings that form webs. Webs that structure and hold suspended our senses of self. Later, we anchor ourselves to lovers, friends, and experiences. As we get older, a sense of emotional geography emerges, a personal cartography of all the actual physical places that embody our experience, the house we were raised in, the tree we climbed, the tree we fell out of, the house where we realized we no longer belonged. The default orientation to this is that these experiences and moments happen to us, at us, that we have no autonomy over the creation of our own emotional geography, that the sense of home and place in our personal cartographies are born out of a fateful reckoning. But what if we could be proactive and fashion our own sense of home and place? If we could carry this inside us, our own personal estate that we protect and nurture, and that couldn't be taken from us? When I was a child, I used to dream of secret gardens. Night after night, I would imagine that I had lucked upon an opening in my parents' prosaic garden, a wormhole that I stepped through, Alice-like, into another world. A 4D world similar to mine, but much better. My secret garden was less about a potential physical space, but more about a space opening up inside of me. A place where I felt more myself, away from the tyrannies of childhood and the daunting prospect of young adulthood, where I was safe and free to dream. In this garden, I was a concentrated self, a pure essence of my spirit. In the garden, I was me. Vev lived in Shetland for many years and experienced the wild landscape as if it were a dear, challenging friend that facilitated growth. In fact, I felt married to the landscape and more connected to it in a way that I didn't with the island people. I found many private spaces and places that felt like home, including a friend's semi-cultivated garden, Lee Gardens. This special place has at times felt to me a secret escape, an unbelievable lush, imagining in a landscape which can sometimes feel unwelcoming. Lee Gardens is a horticultural triumph and a delight to the eye in every season. It's a place where one can be more of oneself, concentrated and mindful in the here and how. What is a garden if not a place of endless possibility? What is a garden if not a sanctuary, a place that restores, renews, and reveals new ways of being? Lee Gardens is an extraordinary place, a poetic testimony of how one can create one's own environment and horticultural grammar and metaphor, a creative intervention in the Shetland landscape that sings and speaks to us of how we can embed ourselves peacefully, respectfully, and playfully into the landscape, how we can endeavor to dialogue with nature in a way where we draw out the accent rather than clip its joyful cadence and its contribution to the natural. Open Song of the North, hear the garden's textures, layers, stillness, and activity all. Offer space to ponder beauty, the seasons, the cycles of life, and a place for self-restoration. A sacred space to suit yourself, reflect, and to look inwards and feel home, rather than looking outwards, looking and yearning for home. You are home. You are here, and in this moment, the Shetland curlew's song is mine. The heather, moss, and undulating hills and skies are mine. I am not particularly religious, but I do feel a spirit connection with nature, to the curlew and the bonxie, the sparrow and the wren. The sea and sky are reflections of my ever-changing mind and mood. Trees offer sacred sanctuary. Flora and fauna delight the heart and eye. All feed and uplift my spirit. I am a nature girl. Despite the fact that I lived in cities for most of my childhood, I am truly at home when in natural and rural spaces. I was born in India but raised in the UK. When I returned to India for the first time in my early 20s, I was struck by how viscerally I connected with rural India. India is so diverse. There are many, many aspects to India, each so different. For me, returning to the place where I was born, Punjab, and visiting the land of my ancestors, the pined, rural Punjab, was a revelation. Everything made sense. How I felt so at home with nature in all its forms. I understood that the heart of me was a country girl. That although I love the city and city life, on many levels, cities were like mistresses who drew me away from my true love, my true self, my real life. I have felt nurtured by both cities and the country, but in one space, I felt I had head and heart space, and in the other, I often felt unable to discern my own wants and thoughts from others. Cities were inspiring, entertaining, and exciting, but were for me a place of bamboozlement. They provided a diversion from myself. Interestingly, what I miss most about cities are people and the best of what humanity can make. Art, music, food, and community. I don't have that human connection in remote rural island life, but what I do have is head and heart space and a pure conduit in wildness. I feel my true size and imagine I have a more accurate perspective on life. Recent years spent split between Shetland and Glasgow's south side have proved fruitful. Last year, I was proud to be part of the community that actively stopped a UK Immigration and Borders Protection Agency taking one of our neighbors. That May Day on Kenmure Street will never leave me and has been banked as one the spolvaces in my heart that will never be displaced. I feel emotionally tethered to the truly gallus and green locale of Pollock Shields in a way that I never thought any city could seduce me. Scotland's shields and Shetland Islands have shaped, nurtured, and uplifted my current neural pathways in these days of flux, and I am forever grateful for this. Walls, when I came back that day after everything had happened, I thought you didn't remember me. We were your first guests after all, and you took care of us. I could see you shivering in the January chill as I ran from the car. The weeping snow slipped the key in the lock. Inside you were pink blue cold. We said our hellos, your hand in mine. Formal and firm, still an ocean of memory between us. I wandered your days, your years sank into the echoes of dreams. Colored rainbow, bright drink laughter spilling like spring showers. I caught the whispers of time opening their wings. Learning to fly hinge to this family of mine. I heard the doors to our heart flutter as night came. 44. Too soon a man has come to take measurements, photographs make notes. How could he know the pockets of these walls brim full with treasure? Tell him, walls tell him. Others will come, asterisk, because a matter asterisk like a rat up a drain pipe. I shadowed that school gate like the devil was on my tail. This was nae my gig, and was nae unpacking. If I was gonna engage in education anywhere, it was nae here. Oh, totally had the fear, and the battle lines between me and Mama were drawn. Day in, day out, I was frog marched through the gate, opposing the forces at play, a shot right back at it. Get back here. Gangly Gibson with the protruding teeth stumped a path towards me. It's no happening. We'll see. Come at me, 10 open her teeth, ya absolute howler. Gibson snatched my arm. In the tussle, she somersaulted backside over elbow and splattered spread-eagled on the concourse like an upturned turtle. 13 years and a prolific school refuser, I was a gob on legs, with a tongue that held enough spark to light a match. Filterless, my thoughts tripped out my mouth. Focused and fearless, I thought they were justified. If there was ever a holy grail, a rebellion, then I wrote the book. Defiance, not compliance, that was my motto. There was nae taming this free spirit. Why? Because I matter, school. Or I'll get the jail. Ma was at her wit's end. Alright, Greta Garbo, curb your melodramatics. At War W Society, I rolled W my policy, much to her disapproval. I was nae caring, they were my pals. 47, I was accepted. And ready to roll, why whatever. Pals or nae pals, I was a one-woman yippin', chippin' nightmare. Regarded the family disappointment, I acknowledged I was an organic pain in society's rectum, but debated I was a product A the soil she'd fertilized me in. The day the polis chopped, her mania skyrocketed. Get your carcass to school. PC Bobbin roared on his unannounced visit. Your ma's demented W.I.B. Blanking him, I gaped out the window and scanned the expanse a jubilee crescent. What's she doing? He squinted. Looking for who asked you. Shift your soul lady. That'll be a Naya absolute fraggle. Faking bravado, I darted away and locked myself in the lobby as Bobbin pounded the hallway in hot pursuit. Ya cheeky wee. Gone your soul, ya mutant, I called Phi Ma hideout. Remove your boggin breath, Phi Ma Ma's keyhole. Vay immediacy, it reeks like a hog's butt. Shots fired, the stench a fear rose as Bobbin and Mama battered the door dementedly. Sorry, officer, Mama squirmed. Affronted W. And tar she blows in 3, 2, 1, gone, your soul ma. You're. Jake, it's on a shugly peg. She went from a steady simmer to near explosion in 0.4 a millisecond, hammering the door like a woman possessed. Hold your soul together. I cranked it up a gear, the door bolt ensuring my safety. You're embarrassing your soul in front a the constabulary. A stilled silence ensued as the standoff continued. She's disturbed. Ma side. I, pot, kettle hen. Well, your brother's no like that. I am totally killing the whole family disappointment thing. The rebellion held out as Bobbin admitted defeat when his radio crackled, and his gaffer ordered him elsewhere. Nonetheless, rebel was trending, and like an infection, I took hold. Exiting my hideout, I prepared for the onslaught. In an ugly incident, If looks could have killed, Ah was a goner. No, the height a nonsense, but famed for her signature. Daggers, Mama drew her eyes af me, the look penetrating my soul. You're grounded, and that'll no be happenin'. I winked. Jaren, nah, tally ho, Ma. You're a pure riot. Ma Posse chuckled as relayed rebel events. Was a complex kid, but so was Ma Fear. Life had torn cracks in Ma causes her poor choices, and she wasna getting away tearing any more cracks in mine. A victim at circumstance, Ma? Rebellion rose, frustration from our midnight flit to Edinburgh, and being catapulted without warning into a life. Didn't fit into. Ma, broad Glaswegian accent made me the subject a ridicule. So did the clothing grant shoes and jacket, indicating was a welfare ween that made me the subject a playground humiliation. They were buffan, they compromised my dignity, and wasn't wearing them. Why the dreaded chap Peacock, the education welfare officer trouble brewed. An imposing character, he terrorized weens. No, this ween though. The standoff continued until he put me before the children's hearing. Sat in silence, the glare the opposition was slicing. Awkward, I blurted out amid disbelieving gasps, "Show some respect." The bigwig peered over his spectacles. "Bolt you, ya fossil." Fit to explode. Ma feigned patience. She had there were too many witnesses. You poor woman. The bigwig sniffed. Hold on. How's she the victim? The Havne asked my side the story. Just go to school. Well. Losing the battle, a compulsory supervision order was imposed, and I was appointed a fangly-dangly social worker. Let me tell ye, that was never gonna work. Something in my soul cried and rose in resistance. Ram your social worker. You vampot. Didn't fit into the new world, and they weren't gonna make me. Life never gave me lemons. It turned me upside down and smacked my backside, leaving scars nobody noticed. Social worker or no, I'll never return to school. It's changed days, though. Although the hardliner rebel still bubbles within, I turned failure into success and made peace my demons. A practicing social worker, I support weens like I was. The difference, these weens have a voice. Looking back, Mama had her misgivings, but so did I. Throughout the battles, her patience was commendable. What she didn't see was that I had 50 inherited her fighting spirit. All misrepresented rebels, salute yourselves, live fast, rebel. Hard regret now, and stand up for what you believe in, even if you're standing alone. Why? Because the matter. Epona, I remember going over a bridge with my father. The Clyde's muddy waters flowed swirling below. The everyday world was left far behind us, and lying before us the new and unknown. I remember a smitty, a huge humid cavern, a hammer's loud clang metallic and sharp. A fire spitting sparks to the breath of the bellows, the flicker of flames in the unquiet dark. I remember a horse that shone in the darkness, its coppery coat reflecting the flames, its mane a corona of light and of fire backlit by the furnace and flowing untamed. I remember the scorching, the smell, and the smoke the wild. Rolling eyes as the horse tossed its head 52. The hot steaming shoes hammered home by the smithy, my dad's hug dispelling my feelings of dread. I was only a child then, not knowing such words as astonished, amazed, or spiritualized. And nor did I know that this numinous scene would shine in my mind for the rest of my life. Asterisk, dear asterisk, if I stare at this sheet of white paper for much longer, I'll have snow blindness. I pick my pen up again. I want to do this, I do, but I don't know what to say or even how to begin. Dear Who? This letter is my chance to make a good first impression, so I want to get it right. Well, my first impression as an adult. We've met before, but a long time ago. I have no idea what kind of impression I made then. I sigh. I know that if I don't get started soon, I'll lose my nerve and this won't get done at all. Will I regret that, I wonder? I think about the journey to Edinburgh, feeling nauseous and overheated, my baby moving and kicking in my belly, and time to the movement of the bus, nudging me with wee waving elbows and wee kicking feet as he or she had nudged me to begin this journey. The idea of finding out about my adoption, about my birth family, grew as my baby and my belly grew. It was strange, the way this need for information, for contact, had come over me, a real pregnancy. Craving stronger than the need for choc chip ice cream at 8 a.m. asterisk. I was glad to get out of the bus and to feel the cold, fresh blast of December air. But I soon realized what a stupid idea it had been to come into the heart of Edinburgh on the Friday before Christmas. Crowds of Christmas shoppers marched along Prince's Street, and I braced myself to walk against the shopping tide. I pulled my heavy red woolen coat around me in the hope that it would protect my bump from flying shopping bags and sharp shoppers hiding in plain sight at one end, or maybe the beginning of Prince's Street. New Register House, home of records and secrets, including my own. I walked in awe of the building and its contents, in awe of the tumult of mixed feelings I was experiencing. I waited impatiently, uncomfortably, while my document was located. Eventually, I was invited into a small gray room. It felt wrong to be receiving such big, bold new information in such a small, bland space. Then I was informed that I could not have it. I was shocked. Surely I was entitled to see my own original birth certificate. I had presented my adoption certificate and proof of my identity, but my identification was in my married name, although I had been married for 7 months and was now used to having my husband's name and being this new married, pregnant person. I hadn't anticipated that my marriage certificate wouldn't have caught up with me. I'd arrived here before my paper documents had, so they could not accurately verify my identity. So no birth certificate, no knowledge for me. I couldn't bear the unfairness of this, of the clerk having my details right there yet not handing them over. I felt faint. The clerk, probably about my own age, wavered. He made his decision just before I had to cry. He must have wanted rid of this heavily pregnant, heavily emotional woman. He handed over the piece of paper, explaining why he shouldn't be doing this and justifying why he was. But I was not listening. I was reading greedily, giddily. I read my mother's name. I read my father's name, unknown. I saw my original name. And all the time I had thought about what my name could have been, this one had never entered my head. I felt disappointed in myself that I had no intuition about this. This new old name made me feel strange, alien, disoriented, like I was, or could have been, 55, a different person entirely. A person called Caitlin. My baby nudges me again. So I take a deep breath and begin. Hi, I hope you are well and that this letter does not come as too much of a shock. I am Caitlin. Should I write your daughter? No, too demanding. But what if she knows another Caitlin? I'll tell her my age and hopefully she'll put 2 and 2 together and work it out. I'm 21 now, married and pregnant. It's really being pregnant that's made me think about looking for you and contacting you. Apparently, this is very common. It started at antenatal appointments when they ask about family medical history, and I had to say I didn't know any. And it grew from there. I've had a very happy life with my mom and dad. I've always known I was adopted, and I was content with that knowledge and with the life I have. And I didn't want to risk upsetting you or your life now. I know that. Things were very difficult for single mothers when you had me, and I realized that it could not have been easy for you. I'll not write any more just now, as I expect I've given you enough to think about. I hope you decide to contact me, but I will understand if you decide not to. How do I finish the letter now? I can't write love, and I can't write yours sincerely. Thank you for reading this. Ella, X or no X. X might be too much, too soon, too much expectation, but no X might seem cold, clinical, matter of fact. I don't know. Inspired by Ladybirds, a neighbor handed 2 second-hand books into my grand's house. They'll keep. The ween entertained when she comes to visit Mary. Gran, an established member of the hand-me-down generation, accepted them with thanks, adding them to my reading pile on her bookshelf. The books both published around 1961, The Ladybird, Book of Trees and What to Look For in Spring, a Ladybird nature book, fascinated me from the moment I flicked through their well-thumbed pages. I was hooked by the bright illustrations and engaging text. I yearned to be able to identify trees, know when to listen for willow warblers and where to look for blackthorn blossom. Even at 8 years old, I realized the book's content and tone were aimed at a famous 5 kind of child. A 1950s girl from Dune South who enjoyed spiffing, adventures, drank lashings of ginger beer, and ate something mysterious called radishes with her salad. Not a wee 1970s Lassie-Fye and Ayrshire Lace tune, who kicked about the swing park, drank red cola, and ate chips with her salad. Some of the idyllic landscapes portrayed on the pages, marshlands, downs, and canal banks, would not be discovered on my doorstep. Lombardy poplars were hardly flourishing in my local woods. Reed warblers and sandpipers were unlikely to be nesting along the nearby river, or were they? 57. Undeterred by these minor concerns, I took the books home, rounded up 4 pals, and organized an expedition for Saturday. The plan was to explore our Irvine Valley backyard, searching for the trees, plants, and wildlife described and illustrated inside the Ladybird books. So, on a fine spring morning, our own little famous 5 gang, Lynn, Kathy, Anne, Beth, and I set out with my books shoved in a duffel bag, along with a handful of Highland penny caramels for sustenance. Our first foray into the wilds took us to the woods on the bank of the River Irvine, just a stone's skim from the village center. Eyes alert for signs of wildlife, we meandered through the trees, studying bark and leaves, comparing them with the drawings in the books. Someone had brought a small magnifying glass to help. Soon, we were identifying beech and sycamore trees, spotting blue tits and chaffinches flitting among the branches, inhaling the oniony scent of wild garlic and spying gray wagtails bobbing about stones at the river's edge. We followed the path to Newmounds Dam, on previous walks there with my parents. When the river had been in spate, I caught glimpses of sleek, silver skin and thrashing tails in the frothy waters as salmon struggled to lap the dam, battling to reach their spawning grounds upstream. But that day, the river was low and calm. All we saw in the shallows beyond the dam were darting shadows of brown trout. Over that spring and summer, we 5 explorers rambled around the countryside surrounding our town. We hunted for wildflowers, finding red campion and marsh marigolds clustered on boggy ground, where to great hilarity Beth lost a shoe and gained a muddy sock. We were stung by nettles, searched for soothing dock and 58 leaves, shins and calves stained green. We stripped off socks and shoes and paddled in the chilly crystal waters of a burn, pebbles jaggy beneath our toes, tiny fish tickling our ankles. We roamed Big Wood, renowned in late spring as a bluebell paradise and nicknamed locally as Bluebell Planting. Thousands of the iconic flowers were spread like a violet cloak across the woodland floor. An abundance of bluebells can indicate ancient woodland dating back centuries, and certainly Bluebell Planting has a strong connection to Ayrshire's past. Deep among the trees, alongside a burn and being reclaimed by nature, are the ruined remains of the 12th century motte and bailey of Arkloden Castle, reputedly the home of Lady Margaret Crawford, mother of William Wallace. Folklore suggests that Bluebell Woods are enchanted Bluebells are said to ring to summon fairies, but we never heard any bells or saw any fairies. We only heard beautiful birdsong and saw squirrels scampering up oak, trees to hide in foliage, and the white scuds of rabbits disappearing among the flowers. 50 years on, and I still walk these riverbank and woodland paths. Not much has changed. Some trees have gone, and the dam has long since been demolished, but the bluebells blossom at Big Wood, still a magnificent blue-purple haze stretching as far as the eye can see. Nowadays, I take my camera with me on my rambles, snapping shots of snowdrops and thistles, herons and hares, flowering hawthorn and ripe brambles. Only last week, I was overjoyed to capture my first image of a kingfisher, vivid amber and teal, regally perched on a low branch overhanging the Irvine, a fish clamped in his beak. 59, without doubt, those old Ladybird books sparked my curiosity, inspiring a lifelong love of nature, and I have happy memories of our innocent childhood treks of the 1970s, when we experienced a taste of freedom and independence our own children a few decades later would not be allowed. And what happened to my ladybirds? Well, I still have them and treasure them. My own kids enjoyed them too. Today their dust covers are long missing and their yellowed pages exude a slight musty odor. But they are tucked away top shelf on my hall bookcase, patiently waiting to be handed down to my future grandchildren. The berries, Danae, leave the soap in the basin. Lassie, you'll waste it. I sing song and obedient. Okay, Granny. Rescuing the slimy bar of soap from the plastic bowl of creamy water and placing it to one side on the dry grass. I reach for the sweet-smelling, sun-bleached towel and scrub my still slightly soapy face pink, using the rough texture to clean the worst of the dark red stains from my damp fingers, before running off to join cousins and cousins of cousins out in the field. Nearly every summer holiday between the ages of 3 and 15, I would trade ballet classes, Sunday school, and life as I knew it for the berries. The berries was an alternate reality where streetlights, video games, and TV were replaced by gas mantles, playing cards, and campfires. It was a world away from the life of a wean in Central Fife, who was good at the school and always had her nose in a book. It was a wilder, less predictable place and time where anything could, and more often than not, did happen to my mother's family are Scottish gypsy travelers. That's an officially recognized ethnic minority now. One to tick on forms and wear proudly as part of your heritage. It always was to this alternate universe. One day, after school, we'd all bundle into the backs of cars, pickups, and the ubiquitous transit vans, towing a range of trailers. Always trailers, never caravans, to 61 caravans were. What Scaldies used for holidays. The berries was not a holiday. Mine now, you need tay, work hard, and no shame me. I was always the best picker when I was wee. Well, except for your Auntie Betty, my mother reminds me, with an air of dignity and deference to her oldest sister. Aye, Mammy, I'll pick hard, I reply. Mum always became Mammy at berry time. I didn't want to stand out like the wee half-breed buck I was. I was used to it. My father's distinctly non-traveler family were from Belfast, where I was a half-breed of a different kind. One who never talked about childish fantasies of becoming a nun and obediently waiting until the national anthem was finished before turning the TV off at night. Fitting in was a well-practiced art. When I took satisfaction in, the small convoy of motors and wee trailers would head north in the general direction of Perth after stopping for a full tank of diesel at a cheaper Fife garage. We'd pull in at a camp, usually a big field owned by the farmer whose berries we'd come to pick. It had to be a big field because there would be hundreds of us pulling in over the next while, and the season would begin. The ritual of picking berries is a rare privilege that I still miss. Up early, pull on your picking clothes in the fresh morning air, clothes that would become purple from the juices on my hands and in my buckets as the summer progressed. Someone would have made a piece, usually meat paste or cheese on plain bread with a packet of crisps each and a pack of biscuits to split at peacetime. My mammy and aunties would bring a flask of tea, and the weens would have a big bottle of diluted juice made with the water we'd fetched from the tap that morning. Some of the best meals I ever ate were 62 eaten from an old margarine tub, sitting on a wuggy at the top of my trio. We'd pick all day, mostly in the heat of the sun, with bees humming around us and the scent of chamomile and summertime heavy in the air. I usually had a cousin as a picking partner. We'd pass time singing songs or retelling stories that we'd overheard the big ones tell the night before. We'd get distracted, and despite the fact our mothers couldn't see over the top of the trio either, we'd occasionally hear a soft but ominous "Get pickin', lassies" come from nowhere. How did they know? They'd tell us they had eyes in the back of their heads, but the wisdom of motherhood tells me it's probably because they'd done the very same thing a generation ago. For a small child, nighttime on the camp was magical. The expanse and variety of the beautiful Perthshire countryside was our kingdom. We'd have adventures immersed in the sights, smells, and other sensations that children access with such ease. If we could stay up until dark, we'd become privy to all the secrets and scandals of adult life. It's remarkably easy for a quiet ween to go unnoticed, just out of the light of the campfire. I'd listened to stories told by tired aunties and uncles who were grateful for the warmth of both the fire and the connection with much-missed friends and family after a hard day's work. When sleep arrived, it usually happened head to toe, with a cousin or younger auntie in a single bunk, with the sounds of the men still round the campfire, softly chattering away. The summer would continue in this endless way, punctuated on Saturdays by a trip to the tune for which we'd be scrubbed and dressed in our good 63 clothes. The tune was Blair Gory, and boy or girl, we'd be splashing about in the Eric in our underpants by afternoon, with a promise of chips and ice cream for supper if we were good. Somehow late August would arrive and we'd pack up to make the journey back to Fife. The old empty sock I brought to safely stash my berry money in would be full to bursting with my earnings, just waiting to be spent on fancy back to school stationery that I would proudly use in the static boxes that muffled my voice and the static routines that muffled my freedom. Until next year, asterisk something precious. Asterisk town center, Christmas, purse in your handbag. No chance, the policewoman couldn't have been less interested. She wrote down my details, gave me her email, saw me out of the police station as quickly as she could. The bank clerk was more sympathetic as I canceled my cards. Anything precious besides your cash and cards? Oh, yes. Asterisk. The thing was, I hadn't wanted another doll episode. Grandma's sly favoritism towards my older sisters still wrinkled. It's true she kept her socks clean for longer and she didn't lose her hair ribbons, but it still wasn't fair. 2 dolls, one more beautifully clothed, more curly-haired than the other. One dressed in white silk, the other in yellow cotton. One with white leather boots with tiny studs, the other in knitted booties. One in glitter wrapping, the other in Father Christmas paper. If we had the same thing, it was bound to happen again. So I thought of something different. Grandma had already asked for Christmas lists. I thought Daddy would be a better bet than Mummy. I started to talk at tea times about trains. I drew lots of trains in my drawing book. I asked if we could go and watch the trains pass by from the hill above the line. Finally, I mentioned I would quite like a train set for 65 Christmas. My sister spluttered her tea and Mummy scolded her. My little brother said, "Can I play, Vivi?" But he said that all the time. "Thought you wanted a cradle for your dolls, you two," Mummy said. "Well, I'm certainly not having a train set," added my sister. That's a boy's toy." She laughed and they all joined in. Grandma must have laughed too, for on Christmas morning under the tree lay two boxes, one in gold paper, other in silver. My sister's cradle had flowers stenciled on the headboard. Mine had shapes. Hers was white, mine was yellow. Grandma was there, of course, though I only remembered 3 Christmases so far. She was always there to enjoy her. Giving. We did thank you and powdered cheek kisses, then turned for our main presents from Mummy and Daddy. Daddy had gone to the other room, but my sister couldn't wait. She opened a huge box and lifted out a pushchair just the right size for her. Doll. There was a quilt and a pillow with a frill and even a sunshade. She glowed. My brother ripped open his box and cooed with delight. It was a carpenter's set with bright-colored blocks, all different shapes, and a tin of tacks and a wooden hammer. Mummy showed him that the blocks were already pierced, and he began hammering straight away. "Making something," he said proudly. I couldn't see my box. I looked at Mummy, and she looked a bit anxious, like when she's made something new for supper and she doesn't know if we're going to like it. Daddy came through and crooked a finger at me. "This way, little lady," he said. So I followed him into the dining room. I gasped. 66 on the carpet lay a single circle of track. On the track sat a green engine, a black coal truck, and a brown goods wagon. I leaned closer and saw they were joined up by little hook and eye links. Daddy took one hand from behind him and handed me a metal key. It looked like an elephant's head with huge eyes. He pointed to the hole in the side of the engine. "Try it," he said. So I put the key with its square hollow onto the square shaft in the engine and felt it tense as I turned it. I set it back on the track. I thought I heard it hum with excitement, but perhaps it was me. Daddy pointed to a lever in the cabin. I flicked it, and the train went. Round and round and round, and Daddy laughed, and I laughed, and the others came in and laughed too. Grandma and my sister, because they thought it was a silly present, my mother for relief, my brother because everyone else was laughing, and me and Daddy for joy. He bent his knees and took his other hand from behind him. In it were a pair of V-shaped pieces of track. "They're points," he said. And my daddy and I put our smiling heads together and bent over my Trang Hornby train set and took out the metal brackets and fitted the V-shaped pieces so my train could go round the track or across an S-shaped route in the middle. And it never crashed once. And that was my best Christmas day ever. Asterisk, oh yes. In my black leather purse, along with the mere cash and cards, had been my Trang Hornby key, the symbol of my first independence, my first passion, my irreplaceable treasure, the trinket that had been explained to friends and lovers through the years. 67 received with smiles, a little mockery sometimes, was gone. Tossed into a bin with the purse, the Japanese god of luck token, and all the other things of no importance. Something inside me lost my last grip on childhood, and the 65-year-old wept in the street.